Where are you recording from?
I'm in Toronto.
You're in Toronto. Very cool. Are you able to attend the film festival?
I was working on a job, and originally it was looking like I was actually working on the day that the premiere was, but thank God they were able to work something out. So I was able to stay here, and I actually fly back out tomorrow.
Okay,
So I got to
and
do
fly back out to where?
to Winnipeg.
To
Sorry,
Winnipeg. Oh, great.
yeah. I'm shooting a show that's a CBC and BET co-production out there.
Very cool.
So
Wow,
yeah, it's
busy guy.
busy. Trying to stay busy for now. It's there's lulls. I always find it's moments where you feel like you're working so much, and then you're like, I haven't done anything in 6 months.
Right. Well, as long as you capitalize on that productivity, I guess that's all you can do, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Luke Bilyk, right? Is how you pronounce your
Yes,
last
sir.
name. Luke Bilyk plays Robbie in Kicking Blood. And I think that your role in this movie is so interesting because of the challenge that this character is going through. I explained a little bit before that Robbie in this movie, he has an alcohol problem that he wants um, uh, to fix and get
Mhm.
sober from. But that's hard because he's kind of quitting cold turkey, and he's also doing this with kind of, I don't know if it's with the help of Anna or
Yeah, I was like, yeah,
Anna
like
is just
I'm
kind of
cold.
I'm cold, right? She's there. She assists
She's
a little bit. She enables
she's
a
like a
little
good
bit.
influence and a bad influence at the same time.
Right. But what attracted you to this role of Robbie?
Yeah, it's funny when we get a lot of scripts as actors. Usually, sometimes you're doing 2, 3 auditions a week, and you have to forget about them.
Mhm.
There was something that's really stuck with me with this job, and then when it came up that I ended up getting a call back, and then getting to do a chemistry test with Alanna, which was amazing. But I love I love imperfect characters. I like I think, us as human beings, nobody's perfect. Everybody has their own addictions and complications and struggles that most of the time people don't see. It doesn't really come to the forefront. So I think getting to portray a character who's got surface issues and deep-seated issues, and then actually getting to see that change, I think that was another
Mhm.
very important thing to me, is that as drafts went on, it this story, Robbie's story, got more fleshed out to the point where when we were filming, I was like, this is, you actually get to see a character arc and a real journey of something that honestly, in Naya, you shoot a lot of episodics, you do day player jobs, you don't really get to see a round arc. You get to be involved in someone else's storyline. So it's beautiful to see a change in the human condition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that I look for in a movie that I enjoy and want to rewatch is that character development.
Hmm.
And Robbie's character certainly goes through, kind of that metamorphosis in a way
Hmm.
because there's so much growth that happens, and it's tough because I'm watching the film and Robbie is going through, quitting cold turkey and trying to portray to people that he's different, and
Hmm.
it's not coming across. He tries to get that job back where he used to do dishes, and
Hmm.
the man he's talking to just doesn't believe that he's changing.
Hmm.
So it's a challenge, and I think that came off very prominently in the role and in your performance. So well done on that.
Appreciate it.
I am interested if there is anything that you learned personally from
Mm.
Robbie's journey, anything that maybe you took away from the film that you think about in your own life.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think I could show you my stack of books. My family actually thought I had an alcohol problem from all the books that I was reading. Um, but I don't know. There's one thing that kind of continually came back. Obviously, addiction, alcoholism in general. It's a mental disorder, because your brain, the neural pathways are firing at a rate that we can't plan, and we can't organize that. So I think it's not judging people off of their actions, because their actions don't define the person that they are. You have to dig deeper and actually find the root cause of a problem. I think that there's two things I always try and view things from another person's perspective. I think that if you can understand where that person is coming from, and attempt to try and see the life that they lived, I haven't lived the life that you live, but if I can try and understand it, I can see your point of view. And if it's different than mine, I can understand it. But the one thing for sure is just support systems, is one thing that I took away definitely within the research and then just within the script. And it's funny, you have someone like Vanessa, who is played by Vanessa, beautiful, amazing talent, which was incredible to work with her. But she did something that was very, very interesting that wasn't, I don't know, brought to the forefront immediately, is that we each have someone that we hold on to so that we don't we're going to revert back to where we were, but we want to be there. So it was an interesting play to have Robbie be her thing like that she's holding on to, because if I get clean, and she feels bad about her life. But then it really reminded me is that you have to check up constantly on the people around you, because even if they look happy and they seem like everything's all right, because Vanessa is a character that nice car, nice place, pretty girl, she's got problems, deep-seated issues that she's not allowing to come to the front. So if you don't, it's just call your friends, call your friends, ask. I had a friend not too long ago, he passed away, committed suicide. And it was very, it took a moment, because I think we play this game of being like, I should have reached out and I should have done this. And you know, it burns you alive, because obviously life goes and we get busy and things like that. But there's moments now where I even today with another friend, where I was like, I know this is going and it doesn't need to be said, but I'm here for you. You can call me any day, morning or night. And it's like, when you hear that, even if you know it, you have to hear it. You have to hear it from a loving, supporting group. And I think that that's the most important thing that everybody needs.
You should be an inspirational speaker.
And honestly,
this is great.
it was just so, it really broke my heart to really understand the mental condition of addiction. And I think a lot of that came through in the performance in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think so. It's interesting to watch, and I think that's going to be a big thing that people take away from this movie and from your character and your performance. And I really appreciate that context on like what motivated you to play this character the way that you did and be a part of this film. So thank you for that. That was a fantastic response. I was talking with Blaine about how it is a very serious subject matter, right? Dealing with addiction, and how multiple characters in this movie have to kind of go through their own struggles. But the other thing that I brought up is it's a vampire film, right? And so that's kind of fun. I was interested. I asked Blaine if there was anything fun about the production, and he mentioned about the restrictions and the difficulties that there were. But I guess I'll pose the same thing to you. Can you tell me about anything fun or interesting that happened maybe on set or during production?
Me and Alanna were doing something that was, it just kind of ended up happening, as we were really giving each other enough space on the beginning days, because we were really both in our heads and had a lot to do. And then, without like with the COVID restrictions, we weren't allowed to hang out. We weren't allowed to see each other after set, which it's funny as we kind of talk about it now, is that it played into the performance, because we weren't comfortable with each other. Everything was new and raw. I'm trying to think. We had one day where all of us were kind of in the same, it's kind of the end of the movie, when we're up at Vanessa's cabin. It was so cold. It was like, it was minus 35 degrees.
I actually kind of wanted to ask about that scene, because it looked cold and I wasn't sure if it was fake or if it was in a studio or what, like, because you didn't look like you were shivering, and I was very impressed. It looked cold.
It was bloody freezing. It's funny. I come out of the house and I'm like, why do I look so puffy? And then I'm like, oh, I'm wearing 6 jackets underneath that jacket in a warm up. But there was like moments we're like listening to like Stevie Wonder, like dancing, trying to like warm up in between setups. No, it was honestly, there was so much. I think when you're dealing with content that is a little bit like addiction, vampires, we had levity on set. I think once we kind of got past that moment of both me and Alanna had finished our very heady stuff, for like, now we can kind of be open and fun. But yeah, it was honestly shooting within Sudbury in a quarantined shoot. Honestly, it was so great. It was so great. I had no like generally you have one or two problems. You finish jobs, you come home at the end and you're like, I can't believe blah, 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 blah. I was coming home every day being like, everyone's so great. Like everyone's so lovely. And everyone's just so talented and wanting. I think the most important thing is that if you are on a job and people don't want to be there, it seeps into everything. If your DP doesn't want to be there, if your camera op doesn't want to be there, it makes me, I don't want to join my job. Everyone came to set with this, like, I think you're working on a lower budget film. We all understand this. This is for passion. Do you like the script or not? So you better show up. You better come correct and enjoy the process, which it honestly made it a joy. Like Alanna was just a joy to work with. Most of my scenes were all with her, and she's super professional, and every take was just, the ability to bounce off each other was unmatched. It was so great.
That's awesome. I had mentioned to Blaine that that the chemistry with the cast was fantastic, and it's wild to think that you were all casted kind of virtually. In-person interview or in-person auditions really weren't a thing because of restrictions and everything. I mean, how did you feel about that process? Is there something? I mean, did that change how you felt about whether you're going to fit the role, or like? Yeah, what does that do to your mentality of auditioning?
It's interesting. Still, even pre-COVID, self-tapes were becoming the new norm.
Okay.
Because it's tough. You can't drive downtown 4 times and do 4 different, but I can do 4 tapes in one day, very simply. So we were kind of on that kind of trajectory. I think the only thing that was really interesting is, generally, even if you do a self-tape and you do 2 self-tapes for your callback, your chemistry test is in person with the person. And our chemistry test was over Zoom. And it was very interesting to feel that connection through a computer screen, because you are lost. Acting is all about your eyes and what you bring out of your eyes, I think, says more than the words that you can ever speak. And there was something so beautiful that happened, was that it would be interesting. They have it recorded. It would be interesting to watch the tape, but something happened is that we kind of both connect, like right off the jump. We looked at each other and it was like trust. You really it's a vulnerable job. We're doing things that are awkward. I'm like shaking, shivering. She's like, like if you don't trust your scene partner, that you don't feel comfortable. And then if I'm not comfortable, you're not getting a performance. So Alanna was just a joy to work with side by side.
That's fantastic. Everything, I think there's so much about this that I think just worked well for the production, and I'm so happy that it's making its world premiere at Toronto, and I'm wishing it the best feedback, the best theatrical run. I'm all the best wishes for the future of this film. But I guess, speaking of future, my last question for you is, what do you have in the works that you can talk about?
Well, I can talk about it. I'm not allowed to say any names about it yet because I haven't been officially released, but I'm working on this absolutely incredible project that's shooting out in Winnipeg. It's a CBC and BET Plus co-production. Got historical accuracy. We're retelling history in a beautiful way that hasn't been done before, and I have a British accent, and I get to drive cars from the 1900s. So I'm super happy. But
can you give us a sample? Can you give us a sample of that British accent?
My father has strict instructions. No one is to enter this car.
Oh, it works. That's so great.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty bitchin'. It's pretty bitchin'.
My husband cringes when I try a British accent, so I will not do that.
Start slow, just working it ever so slightly.
That's awesome. Well, that's everything that I have for you, Luke. I want to be respectful of your time. For everyone listening, Luke plays Robbie in Kicking Blood, and I recommend you check it out. And it's a really good vampire film that touches on some serious topics, but still has some really great action vampire-y things. So Luke, thanks for joining me, and for everyone else out there, until next time, keep it for real.